Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the doctors as they travel the Vortex and arrive at episode 458, where there's a platoon of Jadoon in the room with us while we record. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
Rojo, go.
There they
Shut
are.
up, Jadoon. Did you guys have a good week?
Yeah, not bad.
We have a good week.
Do anything fun?
I finished my book, as I saw you did as well.
Yeah, me too.
Dark Disciple, which is the Quinlan Voss and Asajj Ventress story.
It was pretty good, I thought.
Yeah, that was middle of the road.
It was, you could definitely tell it was structured to be episodes of Clone Wars.
It would have,
and I think it kind of suffered as a novel because
it had been served better as a Clone Wars series arc.
It would have been a great series arc on Clone Wars, but
the problem is that there seems to sometimes be action for the sake of giving the character something to do.
Yeah.
And the motivations aren't clear enough until the very end, and then it's really limited on what the motivations were.
Well, and I was thinking about this aspect of it, of Asajj's story arc throughout it.
Which is my favorite part of the book.
But some of it doesn't feel in line with her character and feels like, for lack of better words, her ascent feels a little rushed. And I can justify it mostly because we hear so much of in her head.
Yeah.
But on a screen, we wouldn't have, and
Right.
I think it would have been even worse.
Well, yeah, that's
So
true.
the
But
one
I
part
think that's
where
what I liked about the book is
we got
her
to see
quote-unquote ascension. But I think I can see what you mean by it maybe feeling a little rushed, but I need to go back and watch some of those Night Sister stories too.
I went
to
back and
refresh
rewatched
myself.
a lot of
Did
them mid-read, and I guess it felt like halfway through the book is when it starts for her, as
because
opposed
at the
to
beginning of the book, she's still pretty much the same Asajj, aside from being, hurt and hateful to Dooku for what he did, but
yeah,
she's still very much herself. But
and she has. I think we almost needed another story in between the last one we saw of her, which was Ahsoka's last one too.
Yeah.
And this story to kind of bridge that gap a little bit better. We needed a little bit more to see her slowly into the bounty hunting lifestyle. And
yes,
see her in the gray a lot more than we're used to.
I appreciated the love story. I did not like Voss's character in this. I think he was characterized much better in the Legends universe. But maybe I'm a little bit jilted by that or jaded by that. But yeah, I just thought it was kind of a middle of the road story. It was okay. I was glad to see there a little more. Sometimes when you read these books, unless it's specifically like Master and Apprentice, I liked because it really focused on Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times you'll read like a novel that'll have side characters, and you won't get a lot of the main characters. But this one seemed to have enough Obi-Wan and Anakin to kind of still ground it in that. Okay, these are familiar people.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, had it not been a Clone Wars story that had been adapted to novelization, we wouldn't have probably gotten as much of Anakin and Obi-Wan. And we don't get a lot of Anakin, but as much Obi-Wan as we do. So.
Yeah, well, and I was kind of surprised we got as much as we did going into it.
It characterizes it. It does we're going to do a full on review here, but it does do a good job of characterizing where the Jedi had gone awry and where they had gone to.
Yeah.
And I almost to a point that was too much for where we land with Revenge of the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like the Jedi went so far and then they reeled back before the climax of the story, which but it does kind of
maybe that was
it serves
also purposeful, because if they hadn't have railed back, the events of Revenge of the Sith might not have gone the way they did.
That's a good point. But I think what it did is, and probably served better, the issue that I had when we talked about when I'd finished Clone Wars, and I felt like Clone Wars doesn't push up against Revenge of the Sith well enough to fill that. What Anakin's dissension is not done well in the last series. Of course, now they have a chance to rectify that.
And they're going to based off the animation,
right? But see but that's what I this does that. And so that makes me real hopeful for Series 7 of the or Season 7 of the Clone Wars is that they'll be able to finally kind of bridge that gap
the rest of the way,
right? So, and I'm excited for that. I saw the preview for that this week, so that looks great.
I saw the full trailer.
Oh,
finally.
All right.
Ooh,
yeah.
Looks amazing.
Yeah, it does. And it looks like we're getting that weekly, so no binging
once
it drops.
Well, that's Disney Plus's MO. So,
and it looks like they're starting with some of the stories that didn't get made, like the Bad Batch.
Yeah.
Did I see that right?
I think so. That's what it looks like.
That's pretty cool.
Well, the animation was half done for that. Anyway.
That's true. That's an easy way to start the season.
It seemed like I watched something this week too, but now I can't remember what it was.
We watched the quote-unquote live-action Lion King.
Quote-unquote live-action. Still animated.
The CG animated. It was all right. It was fun.
I still haven't seen it.
It stayed fairly true. I mean, there were a couple changes that were like, oh, okay. I was surprised at how well Seth Rogen did at Pomone. At Pumbaa. I combined the two names there. Pomone. At Pumbaa. And I thought Scar was a great Scar. I liked him. He wasn't as over-the-top and campy as Irons was, but he did a fantastic job for the direction they took Scar. Those are my two biggest takeaways.
But then they butchered the song.
Well, they changed the song. Yeah. Sarah couldn't get past hearing Donald Glover as Simba, so I think that took her out of it a little bit too much. And I thought John Oliver was just apparently John Oliver the entire time. So, yeah.
I can see that.
But James Earl Jones.
Yeah, he was great. Otherwise, it was enjoyable.
See anything else?
No.
Did you watch anything?
Did I talk about 1917?
Yep.
I think I did last week.
Yep.
We finished Legion, finally.
Ooh, I haven't watched the second series.
Oh, you're a little behind.
Yeah, a little bit behind.
So you're 2 seasons behind.
Is there a third one already?
Yeah, wasn't that the third season?
Yeah, third and last.
Okay.
But
yeah, I'm 2 seasons behind then.
It's good.
I absolutely loved the first season. I just never have gotten back into it for some reason.
It's good. It's got a satisfactory end to it that I wasn't quite expecting. So.
It was another X-Men property that Disney had to put a bow on before they.
Yeah.
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 Did you hear that they apparently offered Hugh Jackman Wolverine again?
Yeah, and Patrick Stewart. They've offered them money to come back. So
they're pretty foolish not to.
Yeah, I would agree.
Although I'm okay with Hugh Jackman not coming back. Let's put Wolverine to bed for a little bit. That was the refreshing thing about Dark Phoenix, was Wolverine wasn't in it anywhere. We did watch the first episode of Picard.
How is it?
Pretty good.
Is it?
Not bad.
I'll have to check it out.
I watched the first 5 minutes of the first episode of Picard and got verklempt. And I was like, okay, I can't start this right now. just seeing everything that they present there, it was like, oh.
It presents a very strong argument that Discovery should have been a follow-up series. More than any. That's one of the big things I saw out of it. Just visually, it has kind of a similar feel to Discovery, I thought, and just made it yes, it should have been, the fall of Romulus and all that stuff that happened post JJ's destruction. All that exploration, that's what Discovery should have been. Yeah. And I'm glad they're just exploring some of it, at least to some extent. Well, more than anything, it almost gives it a cohesion of, this is the visual style CBS All Access is going with Trek, even if it doesn't tie in anything plot-wise.
At least until the animated one shows up on Nickelodeon.
Yeah, but that's Nickelodeon. That's not CBS All Access. That's kind of the take it comes across so far. It's an interesting story so far, though, too. I'm intrigued to see where it goes.
We bought a game this week called King of Tokyo. Have you guys played that? It's a blast. It's a really simple, about 30-minute game. But you play as a kaiju monster, basically. They're knockoffs of Godzilla and King Kong and other oversized Japanese-style kaiju. It's really a lot of fun. It's mostly a dice game with some card mechanics built in, but it's real simple and to grasp. And it's a satisfyingly complex game, but it's simple to learn and easy to kind of like Mason and Caitlin caught on real quick, even though it's turn based and battle based and die based. But it's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. So maybe I'll bring it over one of these days.
Bring it over.
The three of us will play it.
We had another installment of game night. We, of course, had finished Betrayal Legacy, and now Patrick has instigated Pandemic Legacy.
Oh, gosh, I saw Pandemic and almost picked that up, and none of my family thought that they wanted to get that complex.
It's cool. It is a little complex because it's cooperative and
right.
trying to stop this. So the way the mechanics work and trying to figure out how the best thing is for people to, well, you do this and I'll do this, and that will help. Figuring that stuff out can be a little involved, but it was fun. The challenge with again Legacy is it's meant to be played out over 12 months, and each month has a different outbreak setup that happens. And if you fail, you get a second chance to play that particular month. But because it's a legacy, you are stuck with whatever bad side effects happen. And so we thought, okay, no problem. Well, we took off and immediately, as the cards were coming out, got hit with outbreak. I mean, they just were like stacked very close to each other to the point where we couldn't keep up with it. And we lost. And it was like, oh, okay, so what happens now? So then we were, reading the rules and was like, oh, this is going to suck the rest of the year. Because one of the viruses that has gotten out has now become twice as hard to eradicate. Yeah. And you can't cure it. You can treat it, but you can't cure it. I was like, really? We're going to have to deal with this stupid virus being in this format the rest of the year? So that was a big challenge. But it was fun. I'm looking forward to the next installment.
Yeah, I was reading the back of this was the standard edition, and it looked like it was a lot of fun. So.
We felt a little bad playing it with the norovirus currently rampaging through China, but it's like coronavirus, yeah. Whatever. Yeah. So bad timing on our part, but and then Corey brought over her trolley game, which is Choking Hazard. What's the one with the online comic with the Cyanide and Happiness? You familiar with that one?
Not idea. No idea.
Little animated.
I'm aware of the cartoon.
You're aware of the cartoon. They've been doing board games and card games and stuff, and they've got one now called the Trolley Game, which takes the classic ethical dilemma of the trolley.
Oh, yeah.
You have two tracks and who you're going to run over. And then there's decks of cards where you are trying to assemble the best or worst, you're trying to convince them to run the other team over. And so, how do you do that? And, well, this card is, comes up that you drew randomly as, this track has an orb that's going to unleash an apocalyptic nightmare end of Earth scenario. Oh, but there's also a sack of kittens, and you have to decide, well, that was kind of fun. It really revealed what sick individuals we are. And unfortunately, I can't get anybody in the games group to commit to playing Fantasy Island, so I'm just going to have to. Mel and I are just going to play it without them. And
what's Fantasy?
What's the name of it?
Forbidden Island.
Forbidden Island. They just, I don't know, they're like sticks in the mud.
We'll get it out after we're done recording here, and we'll play a quick game because it
I'm
doesn't
ready
take
to
very
play.
long. It's only about a 30-minute game or so.
I'm ready to play, but they were just like, I don't know about that one. I brought this one, which involves 15 extra pieces and a couple of downloads, and I spent $9,000 on Kickstarter for it. So, okay, I guess we'll play your game.
All right. Well,
I can say that because they don't listen.
Should we move on to news?
Our first bit of news comes from Entertainment Weekly in an interview with Jodie Whittaker, where she says, and I quote,
Spoilers.
"Yes, I'm doing another season. That might be a massive exclusive that I'm not supposed to say, but it's unhelpful for me to say I don't know because it would be a massive lie. I absolutely adore it. At some point, these shoes are going to be handed on, but it's not yet. I'm clinging on tight."
Yay.
So Jodie is sticking around for at least one more season.
I think it's interesting how that story has developed and changed from previous interviews where she's like, I have no plans to go anywhere, to, no, of course I'm not leaving. Why would I? It's the greatest job ever. To, yes, I'm coming back next season. The shoes will eventually get handed off. Oh, okay, so now there's an end date. like we've confirmed now that there is going to be an end to Jodie's run at some point. But it makes me wonder if she's not going to do a 3 and out. Kind of seems to be
It's kind of the pattern.
the ebb.
I don't know.
Darn you, Patrick Troughton.
It could be a how many different ways can she say I'm not going anywhere sort of situation.
Yeah, that's true too.
Although I do find it suspicious that this quote comes out before this episode aired, considering what happens in this episode.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes and no. I mean, nobody, even based on what happened in this episode, nobody thinks that Jodie's not going to be there till the end of the season.
Well, yeah.
So, I mean, and then this is all going to be wrapped up and resolved by the end of the season
know
as well.
Because we have had the Master as a secret reveal that nobody spoiled.
Yeah.
That didn't leak. And now we've had, can we talk about it yet, or are we going to wait?
Wait.
We've had this happen, which was a massive, how come this didn't leak? What is going on? Why is Chibnall so much better?
You know why it didn't? You know why it didn't leak? Yeah, he went. The BBC said, "What can we give him?" We've got an episode with the Jadoon. All right, the Jadoon. They went over there and they said, "Oh, we're going to do the episode of the Jadoon," only to hide the fact that the big surprise. And then they said, well, what else you got for us? I'm bringing the Cybermen back. Okay, we're going to do the Cybermen. So I'm expecting the Cybermen episode to be a really big freaking reveal of something else that we don't expect coming because we're looking at the shiny objects.
That's what it's going to be, is they're going to kill Jodie off. and that'll be the end of the run.
How did second year in Chibnall figure out how to keep a secret when Moffat had it for 5 seasons, and couldn't keep any secrets from the BBC.
There's not much that I would say, but Moff, you could learn a thing or two from Chibnall about this particular area.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
Anyway, we're talking news, though, so.
Sorry.
That's all right. It just got me wound up on that.
In other news, Big Finish has announced that Carol Ann Ford is going to star in a new spin-off called Susan's War,
with returning Ian Chesterton.
Yeah,
Chesterton. I'm doing a Bill Hartnell.
William Russell.
Yeah, William Russell. Ian Chesterton.
Coming out in April 2020. So April of this year. Gallifrey needs every Time Lord to fight the Time War. A summons has been issued across the universe to its prodigals. Whatever the skills, the war effort can use them. Susan's call-up papers have arrived, and unlike her grandfather, she's willing to join her people's battle and finally return home. Because Susan knows the Daleks, and she will do her duty.
Oh, wait.
I can't wait to listen to this.
Yeah, that sounds like...
How long have we been asking for what was Susan up to during the Time War?
Yeah, that's true.
Now we're going to find out.
That's true, we did.
And it's canon, so whatever BBC does has to follow suit.
So I'm curious how they're going to work Ian Chesterton into this.
I don't suspect he'll be in a lot of the episodes. I wonder if maybe he will serve a mentor role, meaning she'll like seek him out and ask him maybe advice. What should I do? Should I go? That kind of thing is what I'm suspecting, and he'll give her some sage advice every once in a while, and that'll be probably the extent of his role, because he's still got all his faculties, but I think he's sort of slowed down. Even there, he hasn't done anything new with Big Finish for a while, and the reason being is because he's sort of gone into full retirement, not doing much anymore. So, and again, not that because he's lost any of his faculties, because they're all still there from even us talking to him a few years ago. He was still, his memory was a little tough on some of the details, but he was still just smart as a whip. So
here's a quote from Carol Ann about the box set. It's a very complex, interesting, and fascinating piece of work which goes backwards and forwards in time in a way we've never actually done before in Doctor Who. So that's how. Yeah. And it also mentions that she's going to bump into the Doctor himself, but probably not the one she was expecting.
Probably be 8.
Based off that quote.
Although she has bumped into 8 before, because he went back in Earthly Child. And cool. Exciting
would be
stuff.
Totally okay with more of that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Especially since McGann is largely the Doctor,
the de facto War Doctor.
For yeah.
Yeah, especially
Thank
now. Yeah. Well, and the fact that they have the in the synopsis, unlike her grandfather, so obviously he's not wanting to get into the war,
right.
So it would be 8 at this point.
Right. Very cool.
I can't wait.
What else we got?
That's it. That's all I had.
Well, let's move on to feedback.
Feedback.
We're going to resolve some feedback from last week.
Yes.
We got in late because, as we said last week, we recorded early, so Holly got hers in after the wire. Jamie got his in before the wire, but
just barely before.
But Holly got hers in after the wire. So
only like 30 or 40 minutes.
I was going to say, to be fair, if we had recorded on Monday, she definitely would. She was on plenty of time, but
yeah,
it was totally on us and not you. Holly writes, Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror. Hey guys, first off, want to pass on my congratulations to your Chiefs. We'll be rooting them on in the Super Bowl. Yay.
Sorry about your Packers.
Yeah, so am I. That's my other team. On to the review. This was a fun romp of an episode. Having seen both seasons of Timeless, this had a timeless feel because, well, you guessed it, the actor who played Tesla was one of the leads in Timeless. Love the group dynamic between the companions and Tesla and company. Was it just me, or did the Skithra look like a long-distant cousin of the Rachnos? I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think we commented on that, how Rachnos-like it was.
Yeah, I think I even mentioned cousin.
Yeah.
She also sent in some feedback for Fugitive of the Jadoon. She says, hey guys, man, what an episode. Talk about a surprise with Captain Jack coming back. Love Jack's interactions with the companions. Wonder who the lone Cyberman could be. Handles reincarnated? The whole thing with another Doctor is interesting. Another TARDIS. Makes me wonder how much of this is an elaborate play to get the Doctor to do something they normally wouldn't do. This is going to be an interesting setup for the rest of the season. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin.
Thank you, Holly.
And our last bit of feedback comes from Jamie. He sent in 2 little bits.
The first one, hopefully this in time. That's kind of an interesting story title for a time travel show. Hopefully this in time. I'm going to steal that, Jamie. Just making a note of it. First, I'd like to add one last comment on Tesla. Something that wasn't brought up is that the actor who played Edison. He's played by Robert Glenister. Robert Glenister. I cannot talk tonight. I apologize. Who has been in Who before. Robert voiced Borasheth in the Big Finish story Absolution, Cariz's departure.
Huh.
Okay. I don't remember the character, but I remember the story. He is most famous for playing Salatine in Caves of Adrazzani.
Yeah. I had forgot to bring that up last week.
I did not know that. I wish you'd have brought that up.
I wasn't sure if it was him or if it was Benny who was that actor, because we had that news of him coming on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we did, didn't we?
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure who that was going to be.
I had forgotten. Moving to Fugitive of the Jadoon. Well, life got in the way, so I didn't get to see it. But from all the information I've gleaned, it looks like a doozy. The Jadoon, Captain Jack, the Chameleon Arch, Joe Martin as the Doctor. Wow. So the big one, Joe Martin. Is she really the Doctor? Have they already cast the 14th, or is this an unknown? It can't be a pre-First Doctor, as that would ruin time of the Doctor entirely. Unless there's some brainwashing or supplanted memories. The return of Captain Jack sounds fun, and I'm interested to see how the lone Cyberman
Is he reviewing a show he hasn't watched yet?
That's what it sounds like.
All right, keep going.
And how it affects and interplays with the Timeless Child. Not really much else to say. I won't be watching the next 2 episodes. Next week is the Super Bowl, and the week after that is family stuff. Anyway, keep up the good work, Jamie.
Well, we'll be looking forward to when you actually do catch up. Just a little advice, Jamie. I'd hold off on the next few episodes from us then, because those are going to be riddled with spoilers.
His other comment is Series 12, Episode 5, continued. Joe Martin is the Doctor. Watch What Culture's Ups and Downs for this episode for some interesting theories on who this could be. A parallel universe Doctor? Susan? The Doctor's daughter? The Master? The Ronnie? I'm throwing the other out there. Just ideas and more things to talk about. Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie.
All right, well, let's move on to our review.
Fugitive of the Jadoon. Show blow. Trigger-happy space police, the Jadoon, are targeting the 21st century Gloucestershire. How do you say that?
Gloucestershire.
I was right. The Doctor, Yaz, Ryan, and Graham race back to Earth in order to prevent them doing too much damage to the cathedral city. But who are they looking for, and what did they do to incur the wrath of the Jadoon?
Bum, bum, bum. I love this one. Man, You
love the Jadoon story.
I believe it or not, I loved the Jadoon story. You know, it's because the Jadoon were all... I wasn't even miffed by the fact that the Jadoon were in this. You know, I didn't complain. I just kind of...
Bemoaned.
I bemoaned a bit about, okay, we're bringing the Jadoon back. They've always been sort of one-dimensional, and they still meet that qualification in this story. But that one-dimensionality is used effectively by the writers of this, because they are used for exactly what they do, and they're brought in as the heavy without being the heavy, and it's a nice little series of misdirection and steps that build through this entire thing, with that being, you know, the Jadoon being the bad guy in this one, and then not really being the heavy in this one, and finding out that they're actually contracted by somebody else, and then finding out what we find out about Ruth and the guy that, you know, and thinking that he's the fugitive, that you know, that just, it was crafted so well that I don't even care that really nothing was resolved in the story. Because there's nothing
other than the Jadoon contract.
That's just
resolved.
it. There's nothing to this story of substance. It is a lot of
struggle with this story.
It is a lot of bells and whistles and bright lights and pretty eye candy.
For future
it's really what it's doing. But I didn't care. I was having a blast the whole time. I felt that the companions got a little more to do this time. I liked that they started out with the companions talking to the first third of it, they got some stuff to do. I do like that they're sitting on the steps and they're watching her and they're talking about she doesn't even know we're here, and they start to address some of the things, which they don't go too far with it, or maybe not even far enough for my satisfaction, but she's finally starting to kind of relay some information, which I think is what they're gradually doing. That they're piecemealing that out over the season. Our companions are learning more about her as this whatever's going on is going on, and I think that that's being paced really well. right up to the Jadoon coming, and then when Yaz is it wasn't Yaz. When Ryan was pulled to that ship,
Graham.
Oh, it was Graham first. When Graham was pulled to that ship, and I heard that voice, I did a double take for a minute. I was like, that voice is familiar. And then about a half a beat later, it hit me, and I turned over to Holly and Caitlin. I said, "Is that Jack?" And Holly goes, "I don't know," because she's not very observant. And Caitlin said, "No." And I said, "I think that's Captain Jack." And that's when Holly clued in and goes, "Oh, yeah, I think so." And then, of course, they showed him. And I was like, oh, my God. And I did an audible. I don't do this for shows anymore, but I did an audible punch the sky yelp. Like, yeah.
Show of hands around the room. Whose hands went in the air?
Oh, right here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I did. I went.
Yeah. And it was just as I was about to hit rewind to listen to the voice again. He shows up.
Just to make sure.
Oh, I don't need to.
Well, and I half wondered, as much voice as we got, that maybe they were going to keep it where we don't see who it is. But it was so nice to see Doctor Who Captain Jack back. So nice.
Written so well.
But Captain Jack is there for no other reason other than fan service and to warn. Now, I think he's going to be back. I think it won't be the last time we see Captain Jack this season, or maybe even next season. But he's there really just to kind of set up something that's coming later, warning the Doctor about the lone Cyberman, and
to pull the companions away from the plot going forward, so they don't learn about Ruth.
Right, exactly.
Although she winds up telling them, so it doesn't really matter. But that way, she didn't have anybody else to lean on during all of that.
Well, and I think that's what they're crafting through this episode or this series, this season, is they are pulling the Doctor out of that family zone that she has gotten comfortable with, the companions, and she doesn't. I think we're getting a story where the Doctor doesn't realize that she can't cope on her own, that she does need the companion. And I think that's ultimately where we're going, is the lesson learned for her is you're distancing yourself from your family because of problems at home, because of problems you think you need to deal. You've always felt the need to deal with these on your own. And I think the lesson that we're going to get is that if she had let them in on what was happening, and there's a little bit of that at the end of this episode, if she had been more open with them, that she's going to learn later down the line that she would have been able to, this whole thing would have been able to cope better if she'd have let them in on a little closer. Yeah. So I think that's where they're going with it. But
I have a theory about that too.
I also love, I'm jeopardizing a lot of time, but I also love the fact that they have backdoored cast, at least so far, the first African-American Doctor as well, which I think is fantastic. Now, there is a chance that she won't end up being the Doctor. It might be the Ronnie in disguise. She just doesn't know it, or she is in disguise. It might be a parallel universe Doctor.
Even still,
I don't think it's a future incarnation of the Doctor, because I think they do a good job of explaining that because neither of them know who the other is, they can't be each other's future and they can't be each other's past. And so that's a real intriguing, right. Unless Ruth Doctor is lying, then they can't be in the same line of incarnations. So,
which lends to the alternate reality.
I would love that, because that would so make room for Shulkin Doctor. I could totally bring Shulkin Doctor into this universe.
Well, and that's a way to do the casting without committing to the casting too.
That's true.
It is interesting that she is credited as the Doctor in the credits.
Yep.
So it's an official, at least that far. I don't disagree with either of you. I guess Keith hasn't really had a chance to talk yet, have you? Would you like to?
I haven't given anybody a chance to talk.
I've agreed with most of what Glenn says. As far as the Jadoon aspect of things, I was really pleased that it starts off with, it's literally just going to be another version of Martha or Smith and Jones, but they take such a different turn with it that it works really well. That it starts off with, oh, they're looking for somebody, and oh, look who it is. And I was worried it was just going to be, oh, look, it's an alien in disguise. And it is, but it's so much more than that, that it makes it different, but similar at the same time. It works really well. It's a good way to use the Jadoon.
Is there any possibility that part of the acceptance in the room of the Jadoon is maybe because we just listened to Prisoner of the Jadoon and maybe kind of warmed up
Glenn's
a little bit?
the only one that's really had the major issues with the Jadoon.
Yeah, I didn't care
like
that much
that
about that story either.
I've never had big issues with the Jadoon. They're one-dimensional characters, and I acknowledge that.
I understand that, especially the complaint about the space rhino being an anthropomorphized
right.
thing.
And it only takes me 2 or 3 episodes to get over the anthropomorphication. It's when they do it the first time and then they do it again and they go, oh, remember we anthropomorphized these characters. But beyond that, I kind of put those aside.
I think I've kind of come down
okay with the Jadoon now as alien species.
If I remember correctly, I think I was right there with you in that I did not like the Jadoon when we initially reviewed Smith and Jones. I think now I'm kind of warming to them and coming over to the side of, despite the fact that they're space rhinos, it's a really cool look.
Yeah, it is.
And the prosthetics.
I certainly think the prosthetics in this was even better.
Yeah.
I think the head Jadoon guy was much more articulate with his expressions and stuff too.
And
yeah,
the lips that they did with him was pretty good.
I think we were mildly pleased with the Sarah Jane story that had the one Jadoon in it.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, I think I even came down on the it wasn't too bad. Maybe that's because we had Slovene the next week. I knew they were coming.
If anything makes Jadoon look better, it's Slovene.
I have now tasked myself with creating an absolutely badass Slovene episode for you. I don't know how yet, but I'm going to make it happen. Oh man, there was so much to talk about here. The fan service was off the chart in this episode, between just the little nuggets of things, and then the big things like Captain Jack and her TARDIS and the time scoop, and just one after another. And like you, I cheered and fist pumped and was right there, and bells and whistles, didn't really care. And then about 10 minutes after the episode ended, my brain started kicking into gear going, oh, wait a minute, what about, because when you boil it down, this entire episode did nothing but set up a future mystery.
Yeah.
And it didn't even give us a lot of it. It just kind of said, this is happening. Jack's whole purpose for being there was to keep the companions out of the way so that the Doctor could go and have her adventure, and then to deliver Beware the Cybermen. And I kept waiting. Jack's exuberance over the idea of there being a female Doctor. It's like, okay, let's do it. And it didn't happen.
I've got to see.
It didn't happen. we kept getting attacked or delayed, or the ship broke down. And about the third time, I was like, oh, you're not going to do it, are you?
Yeah.
You're going to leave Jack on the ship. Mm-hmm. And then they did. That was disappointing. I love the fact that he came on to Ryan. I like this one.
He's my favorite.
Just so much fun. And you're right.
It's fun.
It was Doctor Who Jack. He's been out tooling around the galaxy after Miracle Day, and
I just thought of something. I'm going to correct myself from something I said just a few minutes ago. They did not cast the first African American female. It's a black female. She's not African American. She's not American at all.
Oh, that's true.
So it's the first black female doctor, or black doctor, I should say.
Good point.
Yeah. Before people are screaming, going, "Wait a minute! You just used that term incorrectly." I did. It's she's not African American.
Well, did you guys assume that Captain Jack's warning was going to strongly tie into the Timeless Child? Because he talks about they develop something and then doesn't really say what it is, and that it's implied that the last Cyberman is after that something. So in my mind, totally connected it to the Timeless Child.
That could be. Yeah, I didn't think of that, but that could be.
That's how I see it all going to tie back in together.
It's really hard for me to sit here and speculate what is coming based on that, and mostly because it was mostly things to come sort of episode, while setting up several other mysteries of who this other doctor is. Why do neither one of them remember each other? How does she have this TARDIS that is identical to, although the interior of the TARDIS is classic look TARDIS, which I thought was terrific, which is
I really like the look of it.
Which is what made me think that this was the Ronnie. I mean, they brought the Master back. Come on, let's bring the Ronnie back. But I just kept thinking that shoe was going to drop, and it really didn't.
When we're teasing, and she shows up. She's in disguise. She's got the chameleon arch. I actually kind of pegged fairly early. Just the way that they were treating the flashback vision sequences. It was like,
it wasn't until the second flashback that I wondered if she was under some sort of chameleon.
Yeah, I think that's what's going on here, which led me to go Ronnie. I totally was down the road of this is the Ronnie, this is the Ronnie, this is the Ronnie, and won't that be cool? And then she opens the thing, and whoosh, it's like, oh, okay, chameleon arch, here it comes. And meanwhile, the doctor's out digging in the garden. Police box. What?
Yeah.
Did not just completely derailed every train of thought I had at that point. So why does she have a police box in the garden? Are you trying to grow TARDISes? Why is it? What is the deal? And then, oh well, I'm the doctor. What? And I'm still stuck on the Ronnie, so I'm going, well, this is no different. She thinks she's pulling one over on the companion.
Right.
Like Mel. She's pulling on Mel.
She's pretending to be the doctor. Yeah.
She's pretending to. And, well, you're not the doctor. How do you know? Because I'm the doctor. And she goes, really? And I was expecting that was the reveal. Like, okay, I'm going to drop the pretense now because you caught me.
Right.
Nope. Kept going. I was like, oh, okay. And then I noticed the way she was dressed because she had changed clothes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I looked at that outfit and I went, that's not. I mean, it could be a Ronnie outfit, but it's not really a Ronnie outfit. It's not her fashion sense. That's a doctor outfit.
Yeah.
Oh. And then she called her out on the short pants.
I thought of you when she said that line.
I'm glad you did. I felt justified.
All rainbows and high waters.
And so now all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this is a very doctor, because that's a doctor thing. They always criticize each other's wardrobe. And, okay. And so I was very now on uneven footing again, while still being super excited with the fan concepts of it that were being thrown about. And then she picked up the gun. And that put me back into this isn't, something's not right here. Where there's an imposter or, what is the deal? And I also called the backfire. I knew that's how she had rigged it, which kind of also seems like a doctor thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
But we got to the end and then didn't resolve it. We just kind of left it that this is happening. This is the thing. And it's like, okay. So now I'm thinking, with the reveal of the Master, and now the reveal of this doctor, I have a horrible suspicion, tied in with what you had said about family and breaking her out of the comfort zone that she's in. And it's just complete speculation. I think something happened, either because the Master went back and destroyed Gallifrey before the Time War, causing a paradox.
Oh, okay.
Which has now broken the timeline or splintered, however.
Right.
Or there's some sort of event that has happened with Gallifrey that has broken this.
Yeah.
And they could be in an alternate universe, which explains the Doctor and all those other things.
Right.
But now, I'm thinking we're going to get to the end of this season, and we're going to resolve whatever that is, and the Doctor's going to go home. and not be able to take the fam with her because they were all in this alternate universe from the get-go.
Oh, yeah. I'll be darned.
And I'm actually a little terrified by that.
Well, that's kind of an amazing concept. I kind of like that. It'd be sad to see them all go, but
I know, right?
Yeah.
I brought myself down with that.
But no, that's actually kind of cool. I like that. I like that speculation there.
So it's entire speculation.
You, with the exception of that end drop of the bomb, you pretty much described my experience of watching this episode the whole way. I was thinking this. I was right along with you.
Yeah. I had to work myself.
So it's got to be the
through it
Ronnie. It's got to be a Time Lord, and then I half suspected the other gal that was tracking her to be the Ronnie.
She almost looked more like the Ronnie.
She did look.
She had more of the fashion sense, but they never let that go. And then of course she's dispatched there at the at towards the end. And I thought, okay, well, let's hope that wasn't the Ronnie because now she's gone. Anyway,
well, the way the two of them make it talk, it almost sounds like either they were forced to be CIA or forced to fight in the Time War, though. The way they make it sound.
Yeah, but I think we're attributing. We're attributing. Well, yeah, that's just it. We're attributing known things about Gallifrey, but I think we have to be really careful that wherever or whatever they've come from is drastically different than how we know it. And I think that's based on the Master's comment in the beginning that everything you know has been a lie. I think that the reason why he says that, we've seen a little bit of fruition of what that is. The fruits of that statement are the fact that whatever's happening here is quite different than what we know as Gallifrey's past, which makes more sense that it might be pre-Time Lord, that it wasn't recent that the Master destroyed Gallifrey, that it was pre-Time War that the Master destroyed Gallifrey, and that things have splintered and created a paradox. So
that would also work in with the ideas that this Master is prior to
Sim and Yanni, and absolutely.
But yeah, I went back and forth with it after working and going through all the ups and downs and highs and lows and just twists and turns of this thing. The fan elements of this episode are just off the chart up here, and the rest of it is as an episode. I feel like it feels kind of like Extremis or whatever it is. I feel like I need the rest of it before I can really...
It's a middle chapter to this overall story.
It's a setup. And it's bells and whistles, really all it is. I mean, after we got done with it, and they didn't really go anywhere, I was resolved to the fact that, you know what, that was just a lot of fun with some information that's going to be important for the rest of the series. That's all that really needs to be. And I was satisfied with that. I was like, that was absolutely fine.
Yeah, there's a part of me that I feel like I could feel a little cheated or a little upset that that's all it is. Because I know fandom right now is just all over themselves talking about this is the greatest thing ever. It's the best episode of New Who to come along since Blink. It's, I've seen all kinds of people just rave about it. And so now the critic in me is kind of going, well, but, is it really that good? Or
there's not a lot of substance to it.
There is no substance to it. But having said that, I'm with you. I don't think I care. I think I just enjoyed the ride, and yes, it was very self-serving, but it was satisfying.
Because we've also had some episodes within this Doctor's run and Chibnall's run that didn't have a lot of substance to it, and it wasn't as enjoyable.
Yeah, that's true.
Very true.
And it didn't contribute to an overall story arc either. So
that's true.
I think it's all in comparisons.
I think there's a danger. I'm really curious to see how the Doctor plays out. The mystery of this other Doctor, because if everything you know is wrong and we suddenly legitimately rewrite Who history, which could happen. I mean, that's one of the great things about the show is there are no rules.
Right.
Just when you think you've got it, then no, we're going to change it.
And after 50 years, maybe it's time.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is we've joked about. Well, it's kind of a soft reboot. Well, what if
it's going to be a hard one?
What if it's a hard reboot? And so that is, on the one hand, a very kind of cool and exciting idea to tackle. On the other hand, I think it's a dangerous idea because, in a way, we spent so much time reinforcing Jodie is the Doctor. And we had whole episodes, we had monologues about, this is who this is. You're the Doctor. You're this, and we got another one this episode from Graham at the end. And yet, if this winds up being the thing that we're going to completely undo all of this, does that turn around and kind of go, see, Jodie was an imposter, and suddenly kind of backdoor fulfill that?
No, because I don't
fandom?
think because Jodie's not an imposter, because she is the 13th in a line of the original 13. She is that line no matter what. You can't take that away from her.
Well, you could if everything you know is wrong.
Well, but the only reason I think is I don't think everything we know as an outside viewer is wrong. I think it's everything they know as the Doctor is wrong. And I genuinely believe that that's where we're going, is this alternate timeline and this maybe even paradoxical setup. But I think all of that will be tied up with a nice little bow. I don't think this will continue beyond Series 12. I think the focus will be shift for Series 13 for a whole nother, hopefully another really good arc that I'm giving them a lot of credit for only being 4 episodes in now?
5.
This is
Five
episode
episodes?
5. This is the halfway mark.
And one really stinker because I did not like that one. But I'm giving them enough credit. But I'm not that worried. Now, if we get to the end and I'm eating my words, then so be it. Yes, everything you said is probably true. But I think from the perspective of the viewer, it doesn't cheapen Jodie's character at all. It doesn't make her an imposter because she was in a way, the final line of that 13 before something got altered. So no, I don't think it lessens it at all.
It all depends on how they change it, if they change anything.
It's easy to panic at this point.
Yeah.
There's so many things that could happen.
Of course, if they do set up this whole alternate universe situation.
Shaka Doctor.
I was also thinking that's a way to fix the Valyard too.
Yeah, that's true.
And maybe we could actually get David Warner on the screen as a Doctor.
We could do
Unbound Doctor. Shaka Doctor.
We could do a whole Unbound.
Nicholas Briggs Doctor.
That's what Chibnall's doing. He's doing Unbound.
He's making it canon.
Curse of Fatal Death Doctors. What was the 7 Keys of Doomsday Doctor? we can did who was it? Played
Cushing Doctor.
Cushing Doctor, yeah. Oh my gosh.
He's canonizing all of them.
I love it. All right. What do we got coming up on the schedule?
Keith, what's the next episode called?
Praxis, I guess. I don't know. Praxeus. Praxeus.
Well, there goes my Star Trek 6 joke.
Yeah, that's not Praxis.
Well, I guess we'll be talking about the pronunciation of that one.
Hopefully they'll say it at least once in this episode, and then we'll just know.
As opposed to the Battle of...
I'm not even going to try.
Yeah.
Anything else?
The Battle of the Conundrum of the...
Be sure to check out our website for travelingvortex.com for updates on this podcast. While you're there, click on Patreon and consider supporting us.
Buy a t-shirt.
And remember, you can send your comments to feedback@travelingthevortex.com or by clicking on the send feedback link on our website. And yes, we do have a store on there, so you can buy merch from us. No one's bought merch in a long time, so I think I'm the last one that bought merch from our own store. That's because we need shirts to wear to cons and stuff.
Yeah. Time for a refresh.
That's right. Well, that's true. We need some new artwork. You guys submit your artwork.
Oh, we've got a new Who font, don't we?
We do have a new
Traveling the Vortex font.
We do have a new font.
To match.
All right, that's going to do it. Until next time, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
Jack's back, baby!
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.